random baby in the park. How you doing, little guy? Are you okay? Why are you so ugly? You look ugly and you look stupid. Funny, yeah, well, at least my parents didn't ditch me in the woods for dinner. Peace out. When you think of kids, you probably think of cuteness, innocence, and maybe brutal honesty. But one thing you probably don't think about is evil. Well, in this video, I'm gonna be talking about kids that did evil things. And whether or not it's my place to say if someone is truly evil or not, I don't know. But what I do know is that everything I'm about to mention that these kids did was definitely evil. Now let's get into it. Starting off our list, we have Josh Phillips, who was only 14 years old when he committed his evil act. Phillips grew up in Pennsylvania, but he was moved to Florida with his mother and abusive drug-addicted father. One very important and interesting detail about the story is that there was absolutely no signs that Phillips could potentially be...
Wow, why is bro sniffing this? Bro, this is not my boxes, bro. This is a shirt, bro. This is a shirt, bro. This is a shirt. Why I sniff my boxes?
Doing. At least none that were reported. He was described as quiet
Love for the heart me.
neighbors in Florida. The mother of Josh's victim even said that her daughter and Josh were good friends and she had no reason to be scared of him. Teachers even described him as a popular kid who didn't stand out, and he had no prior criminal history. So what exactly did Josh do to end up on the list of most evil kids? According to Phillips, on November 3rd, 1998, he was home alone when Maddie Clifton, who lived across the street from Phillips, came to his house asking him to come outside and play baseball. Phillips agreed even though he knew he wasn't allowed to hang out with friends when his parents were home. As the two were playing baseball, according to Phillips, he hit Clifton's eye, causing her to bleed, cry, and scream. Phillips panicked knowing that his father would come home soon and he was fearing his reaction. Phillips dragged Clifton into the house saying that her clothes came off as he dragged her into the house, and then he hit her in the head with the baseball bat to stop her from screaming before putting her under the base of his bed. When Josh's dad came home, he chatted with him for a bit and then went back to his room to see that Maddie was still in his bed. He at that point removed the mattress and then stabbed her 7 times with a knife, killing her. Maddie's disappearance was reported at 5 p.m. that day, and there was a 6-day-long search looking for her, which Phillips participated in. I think one of the most unfortunate parts about the story, besides the absolute tragedy of Maddie Clifton's death, is the fact that Phillips' mother was the one to discover the body in his bed when she was cleaning his room and noticed a wet spot. Prosecutors have a few issues with the story that Josh told, specifically being that it is very unlikely that her clothes came off when he dragged her into the house because there was no dirt on or around her clothes, and the fact that there was no blood on the bat or in the backyard, making his story have almost no validity, and unfortunately, we will probably never know the real story. Moving on, we have Edmund, or Ed Kemper. Kemper was born on December 18th, 1948 in Burbank, California, and he committed his atrocious act at only 15 years old. At least the first of his atrocious acts, but we'll get there. On August 27th, 1964, Kemper was sitting at the kitchen table with his grandmother when they unfortunately had an argument. Angered, Kemper stormed off and grabbed his rifle that his grandfather had given him for hunting. He re-entered the kitchen and shot his grandmother in the face, shooting her twice more in the back. Kemper then waited for his grandfather to return home from grocery shopping, where he shot him in the face in the driveway.
So you shot the guy that gave you a gun in the first place. Like, what are we doing, bro?
Point, Kemper didn't know what to do, so he called his mother and she told him to call the police, which he did, and he waited to be arrested. When in custody, Ed shockingly reported that he just wanted to see what it would feel like to kill grandma. If it hasn't already become obvious yet, this video is pretty dark, and it's only gonna get darker, so buckle up. Kemper was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic and was sent to the criminally insane unit of the state hospital, where he shockingly only served 5 years. Kemper was able to be released so early because he was able to convince his psychiatrist that he was rehabilitated, and he was released on his birthday, December 18th, 1969, which to me is criminally negligent, knowing what I'm about to discuss. If you had any hope that Kemper was successfully rehabilitated, I am extremely sorry to burst your bubble, but that is simply not the case.
I don't goon!
Kemper decided to viciously murder 6 women and even kept their heads as trophies. He then killed his own mother and his friend, and at that point turned himself back into the police. He says that his justification for the killing spree was that he wanted to get revenge on his abusive mother, and now that that was complete, his job was done. This kid was definitely evil. Now, before I mention this next evil child, there's one thing I want to make very clear. It's probably not a surprise that I read a lot of news to make these videos, and no matter how critically I try to think about things, no one is immune to bias and one-sided articles, which is exactly why I want to give a huge thank you to our first ever sponsor.
Oh, don't care about our sponsor.
Which makes sense. Houston tested import and value soon. Now, cereal, our next evil kid. that being Graham Young, also known as the
Holy
serial
cow.
poisoner.
Look at his ears,
Born in
bro.
London on September 7th, 1947, Young's obsession with poison and poisoning things began at a very young age, and unfortunately, that obsession was able to flourish and develop as it took a while for people to catch on. Young used his family and even classmates as lab rats for his poisons, all of which made them extremely sick, but didn't kill them yet. Graham's preferred method of delivering this poison was in his victims' food and drink, a very unsuspecting place. Graham's first official murder took place on April 26, 1962.
Yo, I'd hate myself if I those ears, bro. Yo, I'd actually hate myself if I those ears. Yo, I would hate. He gets no huzz. That's why he's evil. He's upset, bro. I understand that. Yo, he needs to go to some ear surgeon or something, bro.
Yes,
Flipping heck.
Easter Sunday. Graham's stepmother passed away shortly after drinking some tea that Young had added chemicals to. Fortunately, some of his teachers and even his own aunt grew suspicious of him and called the police. Young was arrested, and at the age of 14, while being detained at the Broadmoor Hospital, he pledged guilty to 3 non-fatal poisonings and even admitted to killing his own stepmother with poison. Now, unfortunately, similar to Ed Kemper, because Young was held at a mental institution, his stay was rather short, serving less than 9 years. And upon his release, he went on to poison 70 more people, killing 2 of them. Young was once again arrested on November 21st, 1971, where he was ultimately sent to jail, where he eventually died of a heart attack. Was he poisoned? Nobody knows, but it's a happy thought.
Yo, stop begging for TTS, bro.
Following this serial poisoner, we have a trio of evil children, those being Paul Gingrich, Chase Williams, and Colt Lundy. 15-year-old high school freshman Colt Lundy, with the help of 2 of his friends, shot his stepfather in the chest 4 times, killing him. Lundy's friends and co-conspirators were 12-year-old Chase Williams, who was on lookout during the evil act, and 12-year-old Paul Gingrich, who also shot Lundy's stepfather. One of the craziest parts of the story is why they killed him. Was he an abusive drunk? Was he the worst father ever? Well, according to the boys, they just wanted to run away, and they felt the need to kill him so he wouldn't catch them and get mad at them. That is definitely some 12-year-old logic. Another crazy detail is that Paul Gingrich, at only 12 years old, was the youngest person ever to be tried as an adult and was served 25 years. Lundy received 30 years, and Chase, who stayed outside on watch, got 6 years in a juvenile corrections facility. What all of these boys did was evil, but do I believe that all of these boys were evil? I'm not sure, but it definitely seems that the older boy was a negative influence, to say the least. Next up, we have David Braum. Similar to Ed Kemper, David Braum's evil act was triggered by a simple argument. But as we learned with Ed Kemper, an argument
maybe later on,
can
maybe
turn
later on.
vile. And unfortunately, that's exactly the case with David Braum as well. Around 11:30 p.m. on the night of February 17th, 1988, Braum had gotten into an argument with his dad once again about the music he was listening to. For Braum, this was the final straw, and the next morning, Braum took an axe to his father, and is shockingly reported saying that his father kept getting up, and he had to keep hitting him to keep him down. So that's it, right? He just killed his dad because he was mad at him. Unfortunately not. Immediately after killing his father, he then killed his mother and 11-year-old brother and younger sister, all with that same axe.
People like this are
Weirdly,
so
but
dumb,
also
bro.
fortunately, hours later, Braum asked a female classmate to skip class with him, which she did, and during their time together, he confessed everything to her. He then turned himself in, where he was arrested and sentenced to 53 years in prison. I really don't think that there's any debate on whether or not this 16-year-old who murdered his entire immediate family with an axe was evil or not. Up next, and our second last entry on the list, is Kipland Kip Kinkle.
Oh gosh, look how hideous he looks. Yo, he looks worse than the other guy, bro. Butter Bean, what you saying?
Kipland Kip Kinkle, a seriously twisted individual. Kinkle never liked school and performed very poorly, and even had to repeat the first grade and was eventually diagnosed with a learning disability. But that is absolutely no excuse for the evil acts he committed. By only the 8th grade, Kipland was hiding guns in his bedroom and was caught ordering books on how to make bombs and even shoplifting. But these acts are going to seem like child's play when I tell you about the true evil that he committed shortly after. On May 20th, 1988, 15-year-old 18-year-old Kipling was arrested and expelled from his high school in Springfield, Oregon, after a stolen gun was found in his locker. That night, after returning home from being interrogated by the police, the teenager pulled a gun from his secret stash and killed both of his parents. And if the story ended there, it would be a very the beginning of the story.
Yo,
the next
why
morning, Kipling brought his entire gun collection to
Bro,
school.
why do these kids do this, bro? What, bro? The mother has been pregnant for 9 months for a kid to go and kill her, bro.
And opened fire in the cafeteria, killing 2 students and injuring 25 more. Some rather heroic students were able to control the situation until police arrived. And disturbingly, while questioned, Kipling said that he heard voices in his head instructing him to kill, and that he himself wanted to die. He is now serving an 111-year sentence. Truly an evil individual. Our final entry on this list is maybe one of the most shocking because of how recent it was and also because of how young this evil child was. In 2007, a very young 8-year-old Amarjit Sada claimed the title of the world's youngest serial killer. Sada was born in a small, poor village in India in 1998. In 2006, Sada killed his 6-month-old sister, who was left at a primary school to be taken care of while his mother was running errands. Sada took her out of her crib at the school and brutally murdered her and buried her in a shallow grave, and then later returned home like nothing happened. When questioned by adults whether or not he did such a thing, he freely and proudly admitted to this evil doing and even brought people to the grave. He was arrested, and when questioned by police, simply smiled and asked for cookies. There isn't much more known about this truly terrifying and tragic case, but one of the most scary elements about it is that he was only sentenced to 3 years under Indian law, and he is now free to live his life however.
Bro, like, I'm not gonna lie. If you're able to kill someone, you deserve life, bro.
He pleases. I understand he was only 8 years old, but that sort of evil activity in a person needs to be monitored long term. But for now, that's all from me. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and let me know what you guys think. Were these kids evil, or were they just—
No, they were evil, and that's on period.
You see, I'm liking the way that you force it up on me. Baby, come with me, come and show me. You come for me when you're lonely. I'm just trying to be a one and only.